Well, thank you very much, Francis. So now you could call him the president's man. He has served in various portfolios in cabinet since 1994 under Presidents Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Kgalema Motlanthe, Jacob Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa. So on Monday, he hung up his boots, resigning as an ANC member of parliament. There were highs and perhaps some lows. Former Minister Jeff Radebe joins me tonight for a frank discussion. Mr. Radebe, very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us from our Durban studios there. Thanks for your time indeed.
Thank you very much, Griselda, for inviting me. I'm very happy that you are inviting me to speak about the 25 years of entrenching our constitutional democracy in our beloved motherland.
All right. Former Minister, that is in this case, Mr. Radebe, why did you believe it was time to go? I think, it raised the eyebrows of many when you decided earlier this week to resign as a member of Parliament of the ANC.
Well, I'm a thoroughbred member of the ANC, activist of the ANC, member of the NEC. When my organization, the African National Congress, says that there are different tasks to perform, I obliged. So it was not like an individual decision. The ANC at the right point will indicate what are the next steps for me in particular. But for now, I still work as a member of the African National Congress. As you know, I'm the head of policy monitoring and evaluation. So I'm going to be continuing playing my role in making sure that I support my president, I support the cabinet that has been appointed to make sure that what we delivered as South Africa and also as the ANC, as indicated by the president in January when he launched the manifesto also here in Durban under the theme, let's grow South Africa together for jobs, jobs and more jobs. So every one of us, whether you are in the executive or not, we need to put our shoulders to the wheel so that we can be able to deal decisively with the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty and inequality.
25 years, Mr. Radebe, is a very long time. And, in a bit of the conversations I was having, in preparation for this particular interview, some could say you were that trusted man. I mean, you've served under all these presidents. There must have been an element of trust on their part for the kind of work that you would bring to the table. 25 years in cabinet, in the public service is a long time. What has 25 years taught you? Well,
it has been an incredible honor for me to be given these very important responsibilities and duties by all the former presidents of our democratic society. I think when I grew up here in Durban and I joined the struggle for freedom and justice, it was not for the position, but it was to ensure that we deliver on the historic mandate of destroying the system of apartheid and on its ashes building a new democratic society. So the past 25 years have been a learning experience for myself to contribute whatever I can in making sure that all the heads of states that have been democratically elected in South Africa can be able to do their job properly, supported by us as lieutenants of the organization and the executive. I have been very privileged to have served in many of these portfolios that have given me a very broad overview of what we need to ensure in South Africa to create that better life that Mandela spoke of in 1994.
Yeah. Policy still remains one of the issues that you will continue to deal with. However, government has been applauded for really coming up with sound policies to deal with some of the challenges that South Africa faces. But implementation is where the argument comes in, where people can say government has not fared well in terms of implementing these policies. What do you think it's going to take in order to change that perception?
Well, I think if you look at all the policies since 1994, I think they're very sound. In fact, many South Africans have embraced the policies of the African National Congress. But of course, in terms of practical implementations, there are always challenges. But when one looks back at the past 25 years, we can realize that South Africa of 1994 is significantly different from the one that we have now in 2019, where we see a lot of South Africa being removed from the clutches of poverty, where our children, we can see that there is education for them, and also even the jobs, even though the unemployment is still very high at about 27.6%. But when looked historically, you can see that we have created more jobs than the system of apartheid together. The issues of housing as well, there are major strides that have been made in South Africa today. But what is critical for implementation, it requires all of us as South African citizens. That's why this concept of active citizenry is very important, because government cannot do everything. We require every sector of South African society, business, labor, all kinds of civil society, you and me, to make sure that we implement these programs, because as you recall in 2012, our lodestar, the National Development Plan, has been accepted and embraced by a majority of South Africans, if one takes into account that our parliament actually endorsed the National Development Plan. Our ruling party, the ANC at Mangaung in 2012, also endorsed the National Development Plan. So let's make sure that we implement this plan to create these jobs that are required.
Mr. Radebe, I want to bring, of course, I'm sure you're in the know at this stage, that earlier this week you had at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, Mxolisi Nxasana, tell the inquiry that he had got wind of the fact that you had offered the then Deputy Director of National Public Prosecutions, Nomgcobo Jiba, the top post. I'd like to get your reaction to that.
I didn't watch the Zondo Commission when he said that I'm relying on the information that I read on social media as well as mainstream media. He says he got wind that I wanted to install Nomgcobo Jiba as the National Director of Public Prosecutions. So I'm not sure what he means that he got wind from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south. I have no clue. And you should know, as a lawyer, I'm a lawyer myself, the appointment of a National Director of Public Prosecution is the prerogative of the President as the head of the National Executive. So there is no truth or basis to what he is saying.
All right. So will you be challenging this at all, given that the sentiment has been made public?
Well, I thought that it was not really a key issue what he was saying. He says he got wind. I don't have the power as the former Minister of Justice to appoint a National Director of Public Prosecutions. In 2018, President Ramaphosa appointed me to chair a panel to interview prospective candidates. We interviewed about 11 candidates and we recommended 5 candidates, and the President used his prerogative to appoint Ms. Batoy as the National Director of Public Prosecution. That shows without any shadow of doubt that no minister, including the Minister of Justice, has the power to install any National Director of Public Prosecutions. He himself, Mr. Nxasana, told the Zondo Commission that he met with the former President Jacob Zuma, who offered this position. I come nowhere in the issue of the appointment of NDPP.
All right, look, it's also been a whirlwind week, a number of resignations, including yours as ANC MP. We also saw that of your comrade, Bathabile Dlamini. She wrote quite a long resignation letter, and part of that resignation letter, she's also quite scathing against you, where she accuses you of wanting to take over her ministry. Can I get your response to that? Because in everything that she has said, the SASA debacle, Mr. Radebe, was one of the things that raised the eyebrows of many in South Africa, and the manner in which the former minister had handled her particular portfolio. She was quite scathing towards you, saying you wanted to take over her department.
I wouldn't describe that as being scathing. It just said that that will be a discussion for another day. But if she wants more information about that, she must ask the former president, Jacob Zuma, who appointed me to chair an interministerial committee to deal with the crisis at social development, in particular at SASA. You will recall, Crisilda, that the judge of the Constitutional Court, Froneman, in one of his judgments concerning the Social Development Agency, indicated in his first sentence that one of the major achievements of the new democracy in South Africa is the issue of the distribution of social grant that has played a very key role in making sure that those people, especially the elderly and the children, are able to be given this social service. But the extraordinary events that happen at social development in SASA has made them to take the decision that they took. There have been various court judgments of the Constitutional Court, including one that was penned by the Chief Justice Mogoeng, where he was asking the basic question that SASA was established in 2002 precisely to distribute social grants. You should be the judge to see what actually happened. What we did as the IMC, everything has been above board. We reported to the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, as well as SCOPA, and I had several meetings with the task team that had been set by the Constitutional Court Chief Justice Mogoeng. All the information is in the public domain, including the fact that IMC that I had the privilege of chairing averted what could have been a catastrophe. That's why today we have the system of social grants being distributed in South Africa. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so are you disappointed though, Mr. Radebe, that, in this letter, which has obviously now been leaked to the media and all and sundry, that she accuses you of wanting to take over? Does it disappoint you?
I never took any functions of social development. I was appointed by the former President Jacob Zuma. I was not acting alone. We had an interministerial committee that reported to the President, as well as to Cabinet, as well as to Parliament. That information is in the public domain. The Constitutional Court has a record of what we've done. As I've indicated, even the team that Chief Justice Mogoeng appointed, we reported to them, and everybody was completely satisfied with the sterling job that the IMC did. And of course, the officials that were led by the Director General of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Mpumi Mpofu, made it possible for this initiative to succeed. Even the former DG of Social Development, Mr. Dango, as well as the advisors, Sipho Shezi, amongst others.
All right, so you were also tasked as well with chairing an interview panel to recruit the new director of public prosecutions. How different was this particular process in comparison to what we've seen previously, in light of what was said about the National Prosecuting Authority? Its credibility had been cast into the spotlight. And, what has also come into the public domain now from what we've seen emanate at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. What was different this time?
Well, I think President Ramaphosa has set a precedent, a very progressive precedent of how to appoint a national director of public prosecution. As you recall, the interviews that we had with those 11, 12 prospective candidates was open to the media. Everybody, I suspect, is satisfied with that process. Going into the future, I believe that oncoming presidents will follow in the footsteps of what President Ramaphosa has done, because such a powerful institutions like the National Director of Public Prosecution, the public ought to know and be satisfied that the candidate that is being appointed by the president is the one that is enunciated in the Constitution, who must take decisions without fear, favor, or prejudice. And with Ms. Batoy, everybody in the world saw the interview, and up until now, I have not heard anybody who's questioning her credentials. And our panel, I think we did our best to make sure that we recommend those 5 candidates of which President Ramaphosa used his prerogative to appoint Ms. Batoy.
Mr. Radebe, I have to ask, I'm sure there were highs and lows during that 25 years. And there was a time when your integrity had been questioned by many, where it had subsequently emerged, that you were allegedly involved with a government employee. Would you say that was one of the dark moments for you?
Well, I don't want to speak about that. My integrity has never been questioned. I've done my duty as a member of cabinet to the best of my ability. You can check my track record at Public Works, at Public Enterprises, at Transport, a short stint as Acting Minister of Health, at Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, at Presidency, and just recently at Energy. That's what matters.
All right. I also want to talk about, just outside of our borders as well. I'm not sure, but there have also been allegations, of your wife interfering in the political affairs of Botswana by allegedly propping up the former president, Ian Kgalema. Has this had some effect on you? Not at all.
I think if you are more interested in that, you can speak to my wife herself. I'm not her spokesperson.
All right, Minister, just finally, with your wealth of experience, could we be expecting you to head for an ambassador position?
No, it's not in my in my horizon. And also, too, the ANC has never even made a hint to that. I'm very much in South Africa, as you know. I'm the head of the ANC Policy Monitoring and Evaluation, member of the NEC, as well as the National Working Committee. We are meeting as well as a special meeting of the NEC on Tuesday. So that's what I'm doing at the present moment in time.
All right, thank you very much for your time. The former minister there who served for 25 years since 1994. Former Minister Jeff Radebe in conversation with us there on an array of issues. Well, he says no ambassador post up for grabs at this point. Also addressing, of course, issues relating to the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, where he says that he had no influence, or he says he categorically did not offer the top job of the National Director of Public Prosecutions to Nomgcobo Jiba. We heard some of that sentiment from one of those giving testimony at the commission earlier this week, Mxolisi Nxasana, and also speaking about, of course, his 25 years under various presidents and his contribution to it. We'll take a short break for now. On The Full View, we'll have more news when we get back.